So the biggest problems that people have with Ramadan, obviously it's what do you eat for suhoor, so you get less hungry and so you have better energy levels during the fast. What do you eat for iftar, or what do you do if you go to a family gathering like an iftar or a dawat to make sure that you're not getting excess calories and gaining body fat or feeling bloated and tired during tarawih where you can't focus and you have to hold your wudu in because you feel gassy, right? Like, how do you avoid all those things? Those are some of the common problems. Another big one is like, how do I stay hydrated? How do I taper off caffeine or come off caffeine before Ramadan? These are all problems that people have. And the cool thing with fasting is a lot of studies have shown that fasting actually helps you burn more visceral fat, which is the fat that is most detrimental to your cardiovascular health and most commonly associated with atherosclerosis, aka the hardening of the blood vessels, or sorry, the clogging of the blood vessels. So what are some processes I can implement in my life that will enhance my quality of life, how I feel, make me feel more motivated, make me feel more driven, more energetic, better overall, in addition to nutrition or in conjunction with nutrition?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Welcome to another episode of the Optimized Muslim podcast. Today, alhamdulillah, it's another guest episode. I have with me Brother Mounir Lazouni. I think I've got that right. And he's an online coach. He's the man behind Modern Muslim Man. He's very popular on Instagram and other social media. So there's a lot of things that I can speak to him about, and I'm sure it'll be of benefit to you as well, inshallah. So, assalamu alaikum, bro, and jazakallah khair for coming on the podcast.
Well, yakum and wa jazakum. I want to say jazakallah khair to you as well, because it's always an honor to be able to, do content that's beneficial for Muslims, whether it's across fitness, business, Ramadan prep, all the stuff that inshallah we're going to cover today. And, I really see this as a form of sadaqah jariyah, because inshallah this interview and the different clips from this interview will help, many Muslims for generations to come, because fitness, business, deen, all of these things are intertwined, because if we do things for the sake of Allah, everything becomes an act of our ibadah. And if we want to follow the sunnah, obviously all of the sahaba, radiallahu anhum, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were all fit, mashallah, and many of them were entrepreneurs. So inshallah, it's a sunnah, and I'm honored to be able to inspire others. And I wanted to say shout out to you for your platform, the sadaqah jariyah and benefit you're giving to others, and may Allah increase you multifold and continue to increase you and bless you and everything else. Ameen.
Ameen.
And Wayakum. And if anybody's watching, to say Ameen for both of us, inshallah. So, well, Bismillah, let's do it, man. I'm excited, inshallah.
Bismillah. So, yeah, Jazakallah khair for those kind words. There's a lot of things that I wanted to ask you about, pick your brain. That's one of the benefits of having this kind of podcast for myself, because as I'm growing on my journey, whether that's content creation or podcasting and whatnot, I'm able to invite people on, and through me asking the questions, other people can also benefit. So we're going to talk about, just for the audience, there'll be a lot on fitness, managing health and optimizing Ramadan, because that's coming up in less than a month, inshallah. Suhoor, what to have for iftar, how to kind of manage your energy throughout the day, all that kind of stuff. But I also wanted to ask Brother Mounir about online business, being a coach online, content creation. So there's a lot of different things that I wanted to touch on, inshallah. So first of all, one thing that you'll notice, and a lot of you might have come from Instagram, because I think Brother Mounir, he's got the biggest following out of his social media on Instagram or TikTok. I've only seen Instagram, I think. So I normally like to check out long form content for people, because, like to find out more about them, how they think, kind of deeper ideas. So I checked out Brother Mounir's YouTube channel. So I'd recommend that. It's all going to be linked in the description, inshallah. And alhamdulillah, I was like very impressed at your communication skills. You're able to go more in depth, and obviously short form content is a kind of different beast, I guess. But before I get into all of that, please share about your origin story behind Modern Muslim Man, how you got into it, what the mission is, that kind of stuff, because it's very much aligned with this project, alhamdulillah. So that's why I kind of wanted to have you on, and I'm excited to hear from you, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Well, I appreciate the opportunity and the kind words, and yeah, bismillah, let's dive in. So, it all started off with just fitness coaching, right? Because in college, I jumped around with a bunch of majors. Like, I got really into fitness right before college. And so in high school, from like age 15 to 18, I was working out a lot. Alhamdulillah, I got really into it. It helped me build a lot of confidence, and it helped me to build discipline. And really, even before working out, Islam helped me build discipline because, we all start fasting at a younger age than that. And, when you fast in Ramadan, it teaches you discipline. And, it ties in with what we're going to touch on later today, inshallah, because if you have the discipline to control your desires all day long, you have the discipline to control yourself when it comes to desires with food all year round. Right. And like, if you can completely not eat, it's very easy to avoid unhealthy foods and eat something healthy. And of course, to avoid sin, temptation, everything. So Islam teaches us so much that the West is just catching on to. And you look at different things that are discovered today in the West that we've known for 1400 plus years, mashallah. So alhamdulillah for Islam. And, a lot of times it's easy to take it for granted. But when you look at, the different hadiths that were passed down, the Quran that was passed down generations, there's such an appreciation for every Muslim who has passed along the message. And inshallah, may Allah make us amongst those who spread the deen, spread the da'wah, help other Muslims become closer with Allah. Ameen. So Islam was my foundation, man. And then that helped me get into fitness. And then fitness, in college, I went and I started with biology as my major. But I didn't really like it because I had to do a lot of chemistry, complex math equations. And I was, I'm good with math, but I don't want to do math all day long per se. Although ironically, I do that now in a different capacity. And then I went into economics, and that was also a lot of math. So I went into psychology because I was very interested in that. And, psychology really resonated with the personal development journey I've been on since I was 15. Because 15, at the same time I started fitness, I started a personal development journey. And alhamdulillah, it's been very rewarding. And, it's a huge part of Islam is to work on your character, your akhlaq, right? It resonates with Islam. And just like I said earlier, everything that you do, if you do it for the sake of Allah, it becomes an ibadah. This podcast is an act of ibadah. Why? Because I want these ideas to help other Muslims who are on this journey too, whether they're ahead of me, whether they're, not as far along as me, whether they're somewhere in between, right? Hearing the different perspectives and lessons of others can always teach us good lessons that we can take on for ourselves, and we can take some of it. We can, discard other elements if it's not relevant to us or if we disagree. But inshallah, we all got to be on the self-improvement journey. So psychology, understanding the human mind, understanding my mind and the minds of others was really helpful. But I wanted to go on to become actually an occupational therapist, but I realized that the amount of baggage I would take on from other people would really weigh me down. It wasn't really what I envisioned for my life per se. So I said, hey, I'll just get into personal training. Who cares about the money, whatever, And ironically, personal training is actually a lot of money in it, alhamdulillah. But I went in, just wanted to train people, help people. And my first job offer was like twice what I was expecting per hour. So I was like, alhamdulillah, I'll take it. So I learned a lot, had some good mentors, alhamdulillah, got really into the business side of things too. Because I really wasn't business minded before I became a personal trainer. But alhamdulillah, my first mentor, he was very business minded. And, within 6 months, I had learned the skill sets of sales, and I started learning management because we were signing up so many clients that we needed to hire a bunch of people. So we hired, over the course of 2 years or just under 2 years, a team of 10 trainers. We multiplied the revenue of the business by 4x, alhamdulillah, and by the will of Allah, alhamdulillah. And so ultimately it taught me a lot. And so Allah was putting me through these different things to prepare me for what I believe is the responsibility I have now with the modern Muslim, where all of our audience, both of us, they have a right on us, right? I heard this from Brother Br Mounir, who I know you've had on the podcast as well. One time I was struggling with my motivation when it was coming to my content because I was getting burnt out with a lot of hours. And he said, these people have a right on you. And I said, you know what? That's all the motivation I need to keep creating content. But before I even got to that content creation, like we were talking about, there was a foundation, right? So I had a couple other mentors, started my business when I left that job as, the personal training manager and all that. First I was in person, but then I went online. At first I was just training non-Muslims, but even so, because of my name, because of my look, because I understand, Islam, Ramadan, everything, 25% roughly of my clients were Muslim, which was kind of crazy. So, I was always trying to find my niche, like who's the person who I'm best equipped to solve their problems, right? And it was December of 2021 when my CMO at the time recommended that, because I just threw out the idea, because I had the idea to work with Muslims specifically since 2018, but I just didn't feel ready to lead that niche because I wasn't the best Muslim I could be at the time, right? And so, alhamdulillah, when I decided, hey, I'm just going to help the ummah get fit, like even if I'm not like perfect, I'm just going to help the ummah get fit because that's something I am qualified to do, December 2021. And subhanAllah, by making that decision to lead other Muslims, it inspired me, to start becoming a better Muslim myself. And I did actually a podcast with this brother named Brother Sadaf, and may Allah bless him, because every good deed that I do now, I would attribute to the ripple effect from the conversation that he and I had that day, which inspired me to dial in my 5 daily salat. And alhamdulillah, from there, it's been, a very good journey. And, Allah has multiplied my barakah in every area of my life. And I think that's important to hear, because I know that some Muslims, in preparation for Ramadan, they're trying to get better with their time management. And, alhamdulillah, honestly, most Muslims I speak to are dialed in with their 5 prayers, but there is a large percentage of Muslims who are not dialed in with their salat. Maybe they pray 4, but they miss Fajr. Or maybe they pray 1 or 2, but they're struggling with the others. Or maybe they have, a busy work schedule and they're not creating the time management. So we'll talk about that a little bit today too. But that's where the modern Muslim expanded beyond fitness, because as I went on this journey and I saw the barakah in my own life, I felt inspired to share that with others. And that was the content that really took off more so than even the fitness content. And so alhamdulillah, over the last year, we've gone from zero to, we just hit 90K today, alhamdulillah, and soon, inshallah, 100K. I almost said 1,000K, which is a million. Well, inshallah, in a couple of years, right? And, it's just been a blessing. It's really helped me to be a better Muslim. It's brought me closer with Allah. It's held me accountable to keep leveling myself up and growing. And alhamdulillah, I've even started learning Arabic now, which is something that has always been a lifelong dream. So I finally took action, bought Rosetta Stone. We're working on it. But anyways, just wanted to kind of answer your question with how I got into all this. Hopefully I answered it thoroughly, but not too thoroughly.
No, that's great. There were so many little things that I wanted to touch on, but I'll try and I won't talk too much because sometimes I do that. But there's a bit of similarity, I guess, there. And there's some lessons that I can learn as well from that, because the point that you mentioned about motivation, one thing that I heard, everyone has different things that kind of stick with them or work for them, I guess. And the one thing that I heard once was, think about the person that you're helping, in terms of, instead of thinking like how qualified you are. Obviously it depends which area you're going into. You don't want to go into things that you're obviously not qualified for. But if you just picture the person that you're helping, that helps you overcome the activation energy to get started. Like that video that you make on, say, motivation or willpower could really help someone. And it's kind of qadar Allah as well, because how you look, your frame, and just who you are, it relates to different people in different ways. So like most people might not be that impacted, but you don't know who that one person is that, because of a whole variety of factors, the way you look, the way you speak, your background, whatever, you connect with them on like a deep level. And that's like the sadaqah jariyah benefit of this, of doing kind of online work. And I think the other thing that was interesting, you mentioned that I did watch that video because it was the first video that comes on your YouTube about the kind of starting story. And you did mention in that you wanted to do it about 3 years ago. And I kind of share that sentiment as well, because I got into personal development when I was at university, and alhamdulillah, it's like a positive loop. It helps your mindset, and then you become more optimistic, and then it's like a virtuous kind of cycle. But there was an element where at one stage I was like, I need to do all this first. I'm going to learn Arabic, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do. But then I realized that you just have to assess on the basis of the feedback you're getting from the people around you, your friends and like colleagues. People might be asking you to start a YouTube, that kind of thing. So it's like organic, but also your interest, because I could think of, and as human beings, we sometimes do this, and obviously we should only compare ourselves to people who are kind of in worldly sense. We shouldn't be comparing in terms of material things. When it comes to the deen, it's good to kind of compete with people in a sense as well, to kind of elevate each other. But I remember thinking, I can think of X person, and he's like a Oxford graduate. He's an alim. He knows Arabic. He started a company, and he used to be a county cricket player. And I'm like, I can't start Optimize Muslim, because like, why isn't he doing it? But then it clicked, like, there's a reason. That's not his interest. His interest might be Islamic finance or something, right? So I think that's quite important, to encourage people to kind of step up and do the work that they feel is important. So getting it back over to you, inshallah, with some form of a question, is how I wanted you to talk more about how the accountability side that you mentioned, because I've noticed that as well. Because it's like you're creating content on these topics, it kind of helps keep you accountable in a sense as well, especially when you start working with a couple of clients. It kind of helps you level up. You know, when you have like a coaching call or something, and then you get that positive, you come out of that feeling really positive, and it pushes you to improve yourself as well. So if you could share some thoughts on that side.
Absolutely. So I actually had two mentors who had two very different schools of thought on this. I had one mentor who said, you need to become an expert before you can lead people. And I had another mentor who said, hey, leading people helps me become more of an expert. And so you have to decide which of those ideas serves you and the people who you want to serve better. Is it the procrastinator's mindset, which is, I need to learn everything perfect, I need to study for 10 years, become an expert, 10,000 hours of experience? Or can you own the fact that you're not as much of an expert as you'll be in 10 years, but you have something that somebody can benefit from, possibly more than they would benefit from it when you're 10 years removed from the current point you're at right now? So like, right now, if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, I'm having trouble praying, I'll say, hey, no problem. A year and a half ago, I had the exact same problem. I can help you. Versus 10 years from now, I'd be like, what do you mean you don't pray? What's wrong with you? You know what I mean? So like, inshallah, right? And Allah is the turner of hearts, mutalib al-qalub, and so may Allah keep us steadfast on the deen. Ameen. Right? We can't assume anything. We always got to do our best, and we got to understand that Allah has a plan for us, and inshallah have faith in that plan. So, but at the end of the day, so who can you help today, right? Let's say that you're somebody who wants to be a fitness coach. Yes, of course, if you're like at the heaviest weights you've ever been in your life, maybe you shouldn't become a fitness coach. But even once you've lost that first 10 pounds, you can at least put out some content, which is, hey, here's how I lost my first 10 pounds. I'm 300 pounds. I'm 290 now. Here's what I did to lose that first 10 pounds. I'm not an expert, but I just hope this helps somebody. And guess what? It will, because there's somebody who's 300 pounds who's looking at the 190-pound trainer with a six-pack who can't relate with him, but he sees you and you're 290 and you're documenting your journey and you have the courage to own what you know and what you don't know. And guess what? Then by the time that you've lost 100 pounds or 200 pounds, you've got this huge following of people who you've helped. And then some of those people will have reached out and they want to become clients. And, subhanAllah, like for instance, for me, last year, I actually put on some weight, right? And this has happened a couple of times, even while being a personal trainer. And so, of course, there's a natural desire to hide that. But I said, hey, you know what? How can I feature this to inspire others? Like there's this one guy who got like really overweight, like he put on like 100 pounds. His thing is called Fit to Fat to Fit, right? And he did it to inspire his clients. And I said, hey, you know what? I've put on a little bit of weight. Let me inspire others by showing how I lose this weight. How do I handle this problem? Or like when I got COVID in January 2020, I lost like 13 pounds of muscle in like 2 weeks, which is crazy. So I documented how do I gain that muscle back, that hard-earned muscle. So again, like you got to own wherever you're at and think, who can I help right now? Don't lie about your level of experience or lack thereof, but just own where you're at and share that message with others. I really feel that it helps you become better, because when you become a leader, you then have more accountability to be better. Like if you're a father or a mother, right? You got to lead your kids. And so that's a huge motivator I use to leverage to help clients be more motivated to be fit, is to set a better example for their kids. Like some people, they say, hey, like some sisters, right? You might have a sister, she's in her 30s or 40s, and she says, hey, I noticed that my daughter has started putting on weight because she's following my habits. Or like, you might have a brother in his 40s says, hey, my wife and my kids have put on weight because they see me and how I eat. So this is my motivation to change, so I can pass on generational health, not just generational wealth. Same thing, like with my clients, when they join our mastermind, we have a separate group for women, a separate group for men. And so when a client joins a mastermind, I bring them into the community, and then I start featuring their wins, not only to keep them motivated, but also to inspire the other clients, and so that they feel that accountability to keep that winning streak up. So likewise with us, when we share content, it motivates us to keep living up to these values that we're teaching others. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that one of the most hated things that you can do is to preach something but not practice it yourself. So it gives you that level of accountability to truly, and of course I'm paraphrasing that verse. I wish we had a direct quote. Maybe we could pull it up after, inshallah, where you could superimpose in the editing. But so alhamdulillah, anyways, I'm going on a bunch of tangents, but hopefully that answers the question, inshallah.
Yeah, it does, definitely. Jazakallah khairan. So how long were you doing, did your online coaching start before Modern Muslim Man, or was that kind of alongside that?
Yeah, so it started 2018, and the first 2 years it was a total flop. Just lost a lot of money, but so I had to have a bunch of jobs at the time. But 2020, I met this influencer in the non-Muslim niche who like referred me a bunch of clients. I lived with him for a year. I learned a lot about content creation, and then it was at the end of my time staying with him that I started Modern Muslim. I started praying 5 times a day. I said, hey, you know what? I don't want to be living with non-Muslims and being surrounded by the wrong influence, and that's why I decided to move back here to San Diego. And that's when things were 2022.
Yeah, definitely, because there's not really that much cross transfer between the platforms. So like I think your case study that you doubled down on what was working. So what I saw was that if you look at Instagram Reels and short form content, yeah, it's still proportionally still higher than long form content, but the organic reach has kind of gone or started to dip compared to how it was maybe 8 months ago, right? So I noticed that you kind of spent less time on the long form videos, and you focused on what seemed to be working. Is that like an accurate assessment?
Yeah, because like I always used to feel more comfortable with long form. Like I've always been a monologue kind of guy. Like just ask my mom. Even when I was 5 years old, I would go on these long monologues. And as you can see, you ask me a question, I take 15 minutes to answer the question because I go on 10 tangents, right? So that type of content is very easy for me. But having brevity, keeping my content to under 60, 90 seconds is actually harder for me. But I saw it was working. I saw TikTok was a viral platform, which is where I first went viral before Instagram, alhamdulillah. And actually, my first video that went viral on Instagram was actually a 20-minute long form video last Ramadan talking about, what to eat before and after the fast for Suhoor and Iftar. for optimization, which we're on the Optimized Muslim podcast right now. So we'll dive into that later, inshallah. But
Inshallah.
yeah, it's so so I do like long form though, because long form, as you mentioned earlier, when somebody wants to make a deeper connection with somebody, they want to dive into that long form and get to know them, their deeper ideas, as opposed to just, surface level attention grabbing. So even my reels, they now let you do reels that are kind of longer than 90 seconds. So, I've been making them like 2-3 minutes because I want to at least have like a full idea. But even so, I want to go shorter so I can make YouTube shorts happen to get more traffic to the long form YouTube, inshallah.
Yeah, definitely. Jazakallah khair. I just want to mention there was someone, you've definitely, mashallah, got the most impressive beard that we featured on the podcast thus far, because, mashallah, because someone commented, I asked who do you want as more guests, and for some reason, I don't know if they were just being annoying or they were like, I want someone with a full beard. Everyone's cutting their beard these days. I was like, that at least I've answered that then, yeah. So in terms of I also wanted to mention that we've been talking a lot about creating content. Obviously, creating content is just one form, arguably minor. You can help sadaqah jariyah in many different ways. Even it depends on your skill set. As you can see, Brother Mounir is a very good communicator. He's suited for this platform. Some people might be good writers. I know people who can do stuff just on Twitter and LinkedIn by writing. So everyone, I just wanted to put that kind of disclaimer. We're not necessarily saying everyone has to start coming onto social media and like making this kind of content. So in terms of helping Muslims with fitness and health, and coming up to Ramadan as well, so that's in less than 1 month, you have got videos from, I think, when there was 60 days left to Ramadan on your YouTube channel. But just from your experience, having worked with a lot more Muslims over the last years with Modern Muslim Man, what would you say are the common challenges that people have? Sounds obvious, they want to lose weight and get in shape, but according to your kind of ideal client and demographic, what are their problems? And then we'll talk about the solutions.
Yeah, so the biggest problems that people have with Ramadan, obviously it's what do you eat for suhoor, so you get less hungry and so you have better energy levels during the fast. What do you eat for iftar, or what do you do if you go to a family gathering like an iftar or a dawat, to make sure that you're not getting excess calories and gaining body fat, or feeling bloated and tired during tarawih where you can't focus and you have to hold your wudu in because you feel gassy, right? Like, how do you avoid all those things? Those are some of the common problems. Another big one is like, how do I stay hydrated? How do I taper off caffeine or come off caffeine before Ramadan? These are all problems that people have that I've tailored the Ramadan series content to, and it's been obviously a lot of people have responded positively to that content because it's problems that a lot of people have. So and I would say too, like motivation, time management, those are some other issues as well.
Yeah, mashallah. So I've started offering consulting services on like the time management or just personal development from like a Muslim perspective side. And one thing you do appreciate is that I'm still working 4 days a week, and online coaching is difficult, as in like to actually make a business out of it. I think sometimes people have this way of thinking that it's really easy or something, right? You just make a video and then people click the link, and alhamdulillah, you deserve credit for it, because once you actually go through the journey, and obviously you realize that there is a lot more to it and there's a lot more effort that goes into it and stuff. But anyway, getting back to you can tell that my focus is on the business side these days, but I'm going to get back to the topic that I think will most help the Muslims in terms of fitness and Ramadan and stuff. So talking about Ramadan, I saw someone actually ask about this the other day. The caffeine, I think that's one of the most common ones that people struggle with. So if someone was, let's say on average, someone drinks 4 cups of coffee a day, and they've got that in their mind because they don't want to face that slump that they get. What advice would you give them in terms of tapering down and managing that?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. 4 coffees, that's a lot. So, I advocate year round taking 1 day off from caffeine per week, right? So like I typically take Saturdays off from caffeine because I want to kind of let my receptors clean out. I don't want to get like addicted or dependent to even have energy. And I often actually try to avoid caffeine for the first hour upon waking because I don't want to be dependent on caffeine just to wake up. Now, there are some weeks where you have a really hard push week. Like this week actually was one of those weeks I've been like gridlocked on calls for the entire week. Like when I say gridlocked, I mean like my schedule is a gridlock because I decided to open up some consultation times. And then I also, alhamdulillah, had a lot of clients sign up. So I had some onboarding calls in addition to my usual volume of work. So this week was crazy. So I was actually taking about 3 doses of caffeine a day, 2.5 to 3, as opposed to my usual 2, right? And then another thing I advocate for year round is don't take caffeine after 10 a.m. because then it's going to affect your sleep, because caffeine has a half-life of, I believe, 6 hours. So 12 hours later, you still have 25% of the caffeine left in your system. So, let's say that you had 400 milligrams of caffeine, 400 milligram cups of coffee, like a strong cup of coffee. You still have 1 cup of coffee in your system when you go to bed. And subhanAllah, there's actually some like Pakistanis and Arabs who can go to bed after drinking caffeine. And I don't understand physiologically how those people work. That is one of the few things in fitness that completely baffles me, alhamdulillah. But yeah, I mean, most people though, if you have a coffee right before you go to bed, you're going to have insomnia, or your sleep's not going to be good quality. So your baseline energy levels will not be good, because when you sleep, it's really important because it recharges your body. It, allows a lot of the neurotransmitters associated with being awake to restore. Your melatonin levels are high while you sleep, and then your cortisol levels come up and your melatonin comes low when you wake up, which allows you to have that feeling of wakefulness. And you should wake up in the morning with energy, both physiologically and psychologically, right? So, and then the other thing, before we even talk about the caffeine tapering process, is then we also got to look at nutrition, because you could follow the perfect caffeine tapering protocol, but if you eat like gulab jamun with tea in the morning and then you just switch that for like decaf tea, the gulab jamun is still going to spike your sugar, and then your energy levels are going to go down. Or let's say you start your day with parathas. Weirdly enough, there's actually some people, like older people whose metabolism is slowed down, who can actually, if they have some complex carbs, so even like a whole wheat, low oil paratha could work for suhoor in very rare cases for like older individuals. Like my grandparents, they do whole wheat bread with eggs for suhoor, and it actually lasts them the whole day. I have some clients who do really well on oatmeal, especially clients in their 40s and beyond, for suhoor. And outside of Ramadan, I'm a big advocate for oatmeal because it's a really good carb source in the morning. But usually I prefer for people during a fast to actually do less carbs with their suhoor, or no carbs at all if possible, because that prevents you from getting that blood sugar rise and then blood sugar decrease. Because again, if you can eat lunch, then you just re-up your blood sugar with lunch. But if you're reliant on carbs and you lack the metabolic flexibility to switch into fat burning mode, you're going to really struggle with that slump later in the day. And you mentioned the person who's drinking 4 cups of coffee. Why are they drinking 4 cups? Because they're trying to deal with that evening slump. But what if we can avoid that evening slump in the first place? We address the root cause instead of doing a caffeine tapering protocol, and we do a caffeine tapering protocol too. And so our baseline energy levels are better because our sleep and our nutrition are dialed in. We're working out. So working out is also going to boost your energy if it's done right. Getting the right balance with your carbs, the right timing with your carbs, which differs from person to person. Some people oxidize carbs fast. Some people oxidize them slow, right? But if you're a fast carb oxidizer, usually you'll respond better to having carbs throughout the day. Somebody who's more of a slow carb oxidizer could have carbs at night, and those carbs will still fuel their workout the next day right before iftar, right? So like almost 24 hours later. So it depends on the person. That's why every person requires a different approach. But yeah, experiment with your nutrition. We got the whole month of Sha'ban at the time that we're recording this to test these things out. And so, and then let's talk about, okay, cool. So we're 4 weeks out from Ramadan, right? So how do you then taper off the caffeine once you've addressed more of the root cause solutions with what I kind of just outlined previously? And obviously that topic goes a lot deeper, and I've got a lot of videos on it too, alhamdulillah. And I'll do more too if those videos aren't enough for you guys. So just let me know, inshallah. But then, okay, what's the caffeine tapering protocol? So if you're doing caffeine every day, take 1 day off from caffeine right now and reduce your intake a little bit, right? So if you're doing 4 cups, drop it down to 3, fix the root cause, and take 1 day off from caffeine on the weekend. That way, if you get the headache, at least it's a day where you're not working, so you can kind of sleep it off and hydrate, relax, recharge, all that stuff. The second week, take 2 days off from caffeine. So maybe your lightest day of work, as well as, your lightest, as well as your day off, right? And drop the caffeine down to 2 cups a day, right? And by that point, nutrition and exercise are kicking in properly to where your baseline energy levels are much better, right? Now we're 2 weeks in. Third week, then take 3, possibly even 4 days off from caffeine and keep it at 2 doses of caffeine per day. You don't have to drop the dose, but you just have to drop the days. And then the 4th week, drop it down to 1 dose of caffeine, and you can do that 5 days of that week. So you just take 2 days off, right? And then the final week, so it's the first week of Ramadan. Now you're good. You're pretty much off caffeine. If you need to have like a cup of green tea with your suhoor, that's fine, right? That way you're at least getting some caffeine. It's not going to dehydrate you like coffee. And also that's something I recommend year round. Green tea is much better than coffee. Now, coffee has more caffeine, but if you take matcha powder, or you can even, like, if you like coffee machine, like before I switched from coffee to green tea, I used to use my coffee maker, like my super viral video with like 1.1 million views, alhamdulillah, has coffee at the beginning, right? I'm making a coffee. And ironically, like 4 to 8 weeks after that, I switched from coffee to green tea after a recommendation from a friend. Green tea doesn't dehydrate you the same amount. So I recommend, if you get these matcha pods, they have 50 milligrams of caffeine, which is like about half a cup of coffee. So you can drink 2 of them. So now you can drink even more of this nice, delicious, warm liquid in the morning. And, you get the energy, and it's a much smoother caffeine. Your body processes it better. It has L-theanine in it, which boosts your immune as well. So green tea is far superior to coffee if you're looking for like a year-round caffeine source. So that's my long-winded monologue answer to your question.
No, that's great. We're looking for these kind of more long form answers. So, alhamdulillah, it's good. Because I think that's one of the common things that people probably struggle with. But you're right in bringing people's attention to the root causes, alhamdulillah, because, like you mentioned, it's something that you hear often. Oh, I struggle with caffeine, and in Ramadan, you don't have your coffee. And it's kind of become a bit of a meme, like, the first cup of coffee on Eid. But I think a lot of people still maintain tea or coffee. They just do it once they break their fast. So they don't really come off it. They just come off it in the morning period. And about the delaying the caffeine intake, I think I got that from Huberman, who become really popular in the last couple of years. And I definitely saw that it worked, because I got into the habit of, as soon as you wake up, kind of within the first 20 minutes, having coffee or having tea. And then sometimes I'd have the caffeine and L-theanine capsules. But you definitely feel a difference. If people want to learn more about it, they can go and watch Huberman's videos on it. But it's like it allows your cortisol to rise naturally and stuff, and then you don't feel the energy go down, and then you're able to get more out of the caffeine once you actually do take it, because you're delaying it by about 90 minutes. And but yeah, that's definitely helpful. And then I think some people are just they know that it's going to be painful, and instead of having a protocol, they just think, I'm just going to take it for the first 2 days, because I think that kind of works as well. You know that the pain is going to last for a couple of days, and then you get used to it, so you can just avoid the whole protocol if you really want. Depends how bad it is, actually. So like, if you really can't function, then you need to employ some kind of protocol. But if it's just a bit of discomfort, I think I used to do that. I used to just understand that I'm going to feel a bit of a slump and just get through it after like a couple of days. But other than that, like you mentioned, if you decrease it by 50% on like the weekend days, even that helps a lot. And then maybe on the Sunday, you can just decrease it again. So you're still maintaining the hot liquid ritual by either using green tea or by just having like 25% of the coffee in there. So I think that makes it a bit easier for people. So moving on to, what would you say are, if you can go through some good, you've got full videos on this, and I'll try and link them in the description, or I'll link your whole channel in the description. So you've got videos on Suhoor meals, Iftar meals, things like that. So you touched on it actually, in terms of lowering carbohydrates. And obviously that leads to ketosis, which has kind of died down a bit, like the keto diet. But if you can talk about what you recommend in terms of consuming carbohydrates for Suhoor, and what some optimized meal plans are based on your experience.
Yeah, so it takes a couple of days actually to get into like full on ketosis, but your body does start to develop the metabolic flexibility to start using more fat for fuel, right? And I don't necessarily advocate for getting into a completely ketogenic state, because then if you eat carbs at iftar, I mean, your body just goes through these weird cycles, right? And you'll feel possibly a little bit off, but ketosis can work for some people. There are actually some people who completely swear by ketosis, right? I don't think I've seen any Muslims who swear by ketosis though, because why? Our families all love eating carbs, so it's kind of hard to go keto as a Muslim. But actually, no, I know some Muslims who are very into keto, but most Muslims I know who are very fit understand that carbs are a great fuel source, and it's a great way to make things sustainable. So yeah, for Suhoor, the one source of carbs that I would be okay with having for Suhoor would be, actually there's a couple. There's probably 3 carb sources that I would personally consider consuming for Suhoor that I've successfully used for Suhoor in the past, which are oatmeal, because it's probably one of the longest lasting, carbs that you can eat. Like, it'll keep your stomach full for a pretty long time. I mean, you'll still get hungrier than on like some healthy fats, because fats, take a lot longer to digest, but at least it's long lasting, and it will keep your blood sugar levels pretty stable, and it'll also improve how your body processes blood sugar later in the day. For those who, have no digestive issues with oatmeal. And I typically recommend gluten-free oatmeal, just so you don't get like the gluten, potential digestive issues. Now, the other one would be potatoes. Now, or you could do potato or sweet potato, whichever you prefer the taste of. And potatoes are great because they have a lot of vitamin C, a lot of potassium. You can actually eat a very large quantity of them, and they're very satiating, and it doesn't actually add up to that many calories, surprisingly, as long as they're not deep fried. They got to be air fried with no oil. If you add oil, they soak up oil really nicely, and you deep fry them, all of a sudden you've like quadrupled the calories. So then it ruins the purpose, right? Especially if it's unhealthy, like vegetable oil or something. Then the other thing, the third carb would be like some low sugar Greek yogurt. right? That's actually a very good suhoor for people who don't get digestion issues from dairy, because Greek yogurt, the primary protein source inside of Greek yogurt is casein, which is one of the slowest digesting proteins. So it will last you for a very long time. Some people do notice, though, that from consuming casein, it makes them pee a lot. And this is a very small percentage of people. But I did have a client who we were trying to have him do casein at night, like in the form of yogurt. And he just found that no matter whether it was a casein shake, whether it was even just yogurt, he would have to pee all night long if he consumed casein before bed, which obviously wasn't optimal because that's messing with the sleep quality, and it's not optimal for a fast because if you're dehydrating yourself of all the water, which is also why I don't advocate, coffee with suhoor. I would recommend green tea instead if you need something for caffeine with your suhoor. So that being said, though, my typical suhoor does not have any carbs. So I'll usually for suhoor do about 4 to 6 eggs, and I'll do 2 scoops of protein, and then I'll do 1 to 2 zero sugar Chobani Greek yogurts at 0%, right? And so that comes out to, let's say we do 5 eggs, right? That's about, so 300 plus 250 from the protein, so that's 550 plus, 120 from 2 yogurts is 670 calories, which is like pretty low calorie compared to like my total intake. It's about 30% of my daily intake. So it's pretty optimized. But what's the quality of those foods is now I'm doing these nice pasture-raised eggs that have omega-3s in them. So this is going to give my body a long-lasting fuel source. And then when my body runs out of the fuel from the food I ate, which 670 calories isn't that much to where it'll run out pretty quick, probably by noon, my body switches into fat burning mode because my body's already been using those fats for energy from the eggs. So now my body says, okay, cool, body fat. And the cool thing with fasting is a lot of studies have shown that fasting actually helps you burn more visceral fat, which is the fat that is most, detrimental to your cardiovascular health and most commonly associated with atherosclerosis, aka the hardening of the blood vessels, or sorry, the clogging of the blood vessels. So it's very beneficial for, inshallah, preventing heart attacks. And of course, everything is qadr Allah. But of course, what was your qadr to be somebody who just ate junk food and had a heart attack at 40, or somebody who ate really clean and maybe you died of something else when you were 40 or 60 or whatever? But, a lot of people try to blame qadr for their lack of taking action. But the thing is, if that was Allah's qadr for you, that you were just some mediocre, weak person, I think that we all have accountability on ourselves, because Allah is going to ask us on the day of judgment, why did you not pray? Or why did you not do this? Or why did you not fast? Why did you not take care of the body? Why did you not be the best person you could be for your family? So there is accountability on us to make the right decisions. So again, whenever I talk about living longer, people are like, oh, well, when you die, it's qadr. Yes, it's qadr, but what was the means by which Allah's will came to be? Was your qadr that you got in a car crash at age 25? Was your qadr that she died of a heart attack when you were 40 because you were overweight? Or was it that she died of natural cause when you were 70, or of a car crash when you're 45? Again, we don't know, but that's why we always got to live every day and be our best every single day, because we never know when we can die. So do the best you can on this earth to do as many good deeds. And again, serve other people, those people around you who have a right on you, your family, your employees, your clients, your bosses, if you have a job, your coworkers. Fulfill the rights of those people for the sake of Allah, and it becomes an act of ibadah. So that's what I would encourage everybody to take as much action as you can. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to follow up every good deed with another good deed, every productive action with another productive action. And so I tried my best to live my life by those principles and not be lazy and not have downtime, except as it is required to recharge my energy levels after I've taken a lot of action. So I call it recovery, not rest. Okay. Rest is a form of recovery, but why am I resting? For the purpose of recovery, not for the purpose of being lazy. But anyways, so back to suhoor though. So that's my typical suhoor. But somebody like some of my clients, because of their schedule, literally the only time they can train is after Fajr, even during Ramadan, which for those people, I make sure that their workout isn't going to make them sweat, isn't going to make them hungry, isn't going to make them dehydrated, so that they aren't like miserable all day, right? Or some people, they have to train at their lunch break, right? So for them, same thing. We do want to have some carbs in suhoor if there's somebody who needs carbs before their workout to, have optimal, performance. So for those people, we'll do either oatmeal or potatoes as like a solid carb source. And then also people who struggle a lot with dehydration. What I found is potatoes are actually really good for hydration. Some potatoes with some iodized sea salt on them. Because what that does is you're getting your iodine, which is good for your metabolism. You're getting your salt, your sodium, which is good for hydration. And you're getting your potassium from the potatoes, as well as vitamin C. And I mean, potatoes just have such good micronutrients, subhanAllah. And so you combine all that, and so it's going to help with hydration later into the fast. And then just don't overdo the water at suhoor. Drink a lot of water at iftar, especially before you eat, not after you eat, because then you get bloated, but before you eat, so you get that water in your system after being not having water in your system all day. That way, you're kind of front loading that water intake, and you're not going to have to then backload that water at suhoor and then be peeing all morning and then be dehydrated all evening. So That's typically what I like for Suhoor, and especially when you up your protein intake for the purposes of having a better body composition, better energy levels, better metabolism, your body does start peeing more because protein does make you pee more. So you do need to make sure that you're staying hydrated. You're getting your electrolytes through your foods, so sodium, potassium. The Greek yogurt and the whey protein has calcium, which is also important for hydration, metabolism, bodily function. You and so you want to consume red meat, actually, even for people who have cholesterol issues, still once or twice a week. But for people who don't have cholesterol issues, you could even do like 4 to 5 times a week, so you get your iron intake. Or oysters, if you like oysters, those are great for iron as well. Very bioavailable iron. So again, there's so many different things to do, and then that leads it to the next Suhoor. I don't usually do this, but I've done it in the past, which is doing like some sort of steak and eggs for Suhoor, right? That's a good one. Or like lean ground beef keema, right? Where you can make ground beef patties, and those are easy because you meal prep for the week and you put them in the air fryer in the morning. That way, when you're tired and it's Suhoor time and you only have a short amount of time, if you like that, you can eat that. Some people, again, they have to keep it to 1 to 2 days a week maximum for red meat, but other people, they can consume it a lot more. SubhanAllah, we're all created different. It also depends on your blood type. So definitely look into like Eat Right for Your Type. It's a good book, right? And then test it on yourself though, because you may find that even if you have a certain blood type, you digest certain foods well, versus you might find like, I believe it's type B blood has digestive issues with chicken. Double check that. I need to double check the notes. I might be paraphrasing it wrong, but there's so many intricacies to nutrition. So it's very important that you create a proper meal plan for yourself and that you test it out during your Sha'ban fast to make sure that it's actually working for you. So by the time that Ramadan comes around, you don't have to go through that guesswork and like the stress while you should be focusing on ibadah, but instead you already have it dialed in where your Ramadan is smooth.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of important points that you mentioned there, because I think I recommend that normally people have more of like a experimental mindset. I know not everyone's going to be wired in this kind of self-development way, right? And I've spoken about this with people and guests before, that someone who's into self-development and they're into all this, they might seem like an alien to someone who doesn't kind of focus on that. They'll be like, oh, today I checked my sleep tracker and I've got this much HRV, and they kind of. But I think there is a push towards that, even if you look at the deen, because like you mentioned, people have this misunderstanding about qadr, and that usually comes to the fore with lifespan, but also money. So people, it kind of stops them because they don't have the correct understanding of it. It stops them from taking action. When even if you look at the simple cases, if you look at the hadith about eating one third water, one third food, and one third for it, that's like a prescription, isn't it? It's like as in, there's obviously an assumption that the person has control to be able to kind of enact that, right? So even something, the deen without that, it kind of, I don't see how people can reconcile it, because it's quite obvious the whole deen is about taking and doing certain actions and stopping certain actions and having that kind of level of control, I guess, to kind of improve your situation, improve your life. In terms of what you mentioned about living amongst like Asian families or Pakistani families, because when I used to live alone for work, everything was a lot easier. I used to follow like a keto diet, and more kind of towards the end, going towards carnivore in a way, because I was dealing with some health issues as well, and it kind of helped with that to an extent. But eggs, like literally like 6 to 8 eggs a day, which people thought was crazy, right? When I tell my work colleagues and stuff, 6 to 8 eggs a day, and like red meat. And it was really easy and it keeps your energy at the same level. But I understand, since I've living now with my family, it's a lot more difficult because you see all the fruit on the table and all the samosas and all the rest of it. So you probably have to have a more flexible approach in terms of maybe minimizing carbs in the morning, or like you mentioned also, it depends on the person, because depends on your goals. If you want to maintain a set level of muscle mass and things like that, because obviously having just eggs and red meat, it might not necessarily be optimal for performance in terms of you're lacking carbohydrates and things like that. And also, I think depending on your goals, there is an argument for in Ramadan to kind of step back in terms of the intake and stuff, because it helps your spirituality. If you're consuming less food, and obviously the ascetics and the it's kind of a famous practice in Tasawwuf as well. A lot of scholars, Imam Ghazali, they all talk about restricting food, controlling your stomach as a means to kind of doing more ibadah, having more energy for it. So I just wanted to give that a mention in there as well. So in terms of, what about non-food related things that people can use to moderate energy. I was wanting to ask if you have any suggestions for that. So what I was thinking is things like the non-sleep deep rest, or like cold showers, because I guess if someone just needs a momentary, let's say it's the middle of the day and they just need a boost, I think something like that it has a good role. What suggestions or any comments on that?
Yeah, definitely. And I also want to just say one last comment on the whole point about other, like trust Allah but tie your camel.
Yeah.
You got to do your part. Like Prophet Musa had to strike the ground and then Allah split the Red Sea. When you take a step towards Allah, Allah runs towards you. But if you just don't take action, you just sit on the couch making dua, but you don't do your part, then what are you expecting? Are you going to expect it to rain out of the sky? I mean, yes, Allah in the past has, rained manna and quails from the sky for the Bani Israel. But at the same time, that hasn't happened to everybody. Most people have had to take some kind of action in order to have the barakah rain from the sky or the barakah come into their life, inshallah. So, sabr is means patience, but it also means like perseverance, and that means to keep taking action even in the face of adversity and even in the face of difficulty or not getting the result. And one thing that happens with that is being process oriented, focusing on the process, which is a perfect transition to answer for your next question, which is what are some processes I can implement in my life that will enhance my quality of life, how I feel, make me feel more motivated, make me feel more driven, more energetic, better overall, in addition to nutrition or in conjunction with nutrition. And cold showers is definitely one of them. Like before this, I took a cold shower. Why? Because if I took a warm shower before this, I'd be all relaxed and be like, hey, welcome to the podcast. We're here, recovering, just chilling. Because I had a cold shower, I was like, all right, bro, boom, let's go. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on. Right? Because cold showers increase your dopamine levels, right? And they also are anti-inflammatory. They help with lowering inflammation. They help with tightening up your pores, so your skin quality is better, right? And they also build discipline psychologically, right? Because, it takes, a somewhat crazy person to have the level of discipline and go take a cold shower, but then you learn to love it. And the strategy I use is I started off with warm because there's a benefit to warm shower, which is it recovers your body, helps with blood flow, all that stuff, helps with reducing soreness. But I finished with cold. So what I do is I set it to cold and then I make ghusl during the cold, the entire ghusl. So it takes, over a minute. So now you're getting at least 60 to 120 seconds of, cold water exposure. The other tip with this is you got to control your breathing, which is another strategy as well. But controlling your breathing with the cold shower, if you go and you start hyperventilating, you're going to have a rough time in the cold shower, right? But if you take slow breaths and you breathe as if you're sleeping, like, then it controls your physiological state. And you can even hear that my voice got a little bit deeper and slower just from doing that one, demonstration breath, because what it does is it controls your physiological state. It makes you more grounded, right? And there's also this breath that Andrew Huberman, since you mentioned him before, advocates for. And I used to hear this from my friend Ibrahim, my friend and client Ibrahim. He's the guy in the testimonies who also has a big full beard, mashallah. And so Ibrahim, he would always do this, man. Ibrahim, like I always associate this with Ibrahim. He'd go,
yeah, double inhale,
slow exhale. And what I actually heard on one of the Huberman podcasts is if you have a side stitch, that actually helps you with the side stitch because it's like a nervous response and it helps shift your the state of your central nervous system to help with that. So even just doing some breathing, like observe how you're breathing. Are you stressed out? You're breathing like, or are you breathing like,
yeah. And I think the reminder helps, like, even just sat here, I can see, like, if I actually like sit back a bit and like you start doing deeper breath, it kind of helps with everything, doesn't it? It's just a habit. But yeah, sorry for cutting you off.
That's okay. Yeah. It helps you stay calm. It helps you stay grounded. It helps you stay in a good state, and it helps you stay humble too. Like as a believer, we can't let ourselves get in our arrogance. We're in this power hungry mode where it's like a dog chomping at the bit, right? It's just it's not really the state of like the best believer that we can be. Versus we're in the state of taqwa, relaxation, being focused on our deen, being in control of ourselves, as opposed to letting our desires control us. Like you can either let your nafs make you its B, or you can make your nafs your B. You know what I mean? And so who's in control? Is your day running you, or you're running your day? Is shaitan, influencing you? Is your nafs controlling you, or are you in charge of yourself? Right? And so like that's kind of a very important point, because a lot of people, they allow themselves to be a slave to their desires. And I really believe that learning control through Islam, self-control first through Islam, learning it through fitness as well, learning it through business, learning it through just every area of our life, even with our relations with people, it helps us to be better. And then the third strategy, just to go back to the last point on like how to optimize your energy during the fast, would be to go for a walk, right? Going for a walk is a good chance to shift your physiology. One thing you could do too is you can listen to Quran while you're going on a walk or do dhikr. It's beautiful to listen to a nice, beautiful recitation of Quran while you go for a walk in nature. It's just such a great way to relax. You can listen to Surah Taha, very relaxing surah to listen to. A lot of beautiful things you can do. So those are some of the strategies, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan for that. Yeah, I think the walking combination with zikr is definitely a good one. Sometimes you just want to walk and let your mind run, I guess, like wherever your mind kind of goes, because that kind of helps you relax as well. But I remember sometimes when we're walking, especially if people are doing cardio at the gym, unless you're watching something or like you're kind of learning something, I do think that's a good suggestion as well. Like whilst you're on the treadmill, you might as well just do some adhkar, especially if you've already got your consumption done. Meaning, like if you're in the gym for like 1.5 hours, you can't focus intently on like a podcast or something for perhaps the full 90 minutes. So I think towards the end, once you've kind of learned, what I used to do is like, say if I'm listening to a podcast, as I'm going through, make notes and stuff. And then towards the end with the cardio, I used to just go through my zikr, because from one perspective, it saves time. But the other thing is, you kind of feel present because you're doing just one motion. It's not really taking much of your motor skills, I guess. So then it's easy to focus on it. And alhamdulillah, it gives you, not only do you have the kind of endorphins from the workout, as in especially towards the end, but then it's like taking care of your soul set as well. So I think that's a really good one, especially the walk, midday walk as well. You mentioned something really important there. The important reminder that you gave. I've just forgot. I had it in my mind, but you mentioned something about.
Was it about?
Yeah, it was about the. I was going to say, you know how we hear sometimes like, oh, this person's a type A personality, he's a driven go-getter. And it's associated with like alpha males, I guess, in like the non-Muslim business world, like, oh, this person, he goes after it, that kind of thing. And alhamdulillah, that was a really good reminder that you mentioned there, because as Muslims, we normally think, when you think of that person, we think of the person like you mentioned, he's like not really in control of himself. He might be treating people in a way that's not great. He might be, he has like a bad temper or something, and he's not really in control. He's not really centered. He's not really calm. I think we have most respect for people who are like that. They're achieving and going out, taking action, but they have like a calm kind of tawakkul, like you mentioned. It's like at its core, they're taking the actions, they're tying the camel, but they have that reliance and trust, and they know that everyone has rights regardless. No one cares about your goals when it comes to like akhlaq and compromising on your adab and like relations with people and like how you speak to people. So as Muslim men, that's something that differentiates us from kind of non-Muslims who are just focused on increasing revenue and things like that. So I think that's a really important thing that you mentioned there. So we're coming towards the end. We've got 10 or so more minutes. Is that okay?
Absolutely. And one thing I want to say too is like, one thing I heard from Brother Jibril Romani, he said, I'm nothing without Allah. And I think that's an important thing to remember when you're seeing success. Alhamdulillah, is say Alhamdulillah, and then, do sujood, right? Because sujood keeps you humble. You're putting your prefrontal cortex, the decision-making, thought, deep thinking center of your brain on the floor in submission to Allah. And you're saying, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la. Allah is, glory to be to the Most High, right? And when you do that, it helps keep you humble because it helps keep things in perspective. Like, some people, astaghfirullah, they commit kufr upon themselves, right? Like they view themselves as this superior being. And you may be superior in some areas to other humans, and Allah has blessed you with that as a test and also as a responsibility. Are you like, with great power comes great responsibility? So are you going to use the power that Allah has given you? Like, there's 7 types of people who are in the shade of Allah on the day of judgment. And one of those 7 types of people is a just ruler. So if Allah gave you power, use that power for good, right? And inshallah, because the day of judgment is 50,000 years. That's a long time. You think you're living a long life, 100 years? 50,000 years. Are you going to be in the shade of Allah because you were a just ruler with the power He tested you with? Or are you going to be like Pharaoh or, astaghfirullah, or like, some of these other examples that Allah has given us as signs of who not to be, the people who are arrogant. So pray, make sujood. When you find yourself having those arrogant thoughts, say, Alhamdulillah that Allah gave me these things. Alhamdulillah that Allah gave me these skills. You can be proud and appreciative of your skills, but not proud in the sense of arrogant, but proud as in like, Alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed me with this. What good can I do with it? And then make sujood. Pray, thank Allah, ask Allah to increase you, ask Allah to keep you humble no matter how great you become. And I truly feel that refreshing that intention every day is one of the most powerful things that you can do.
Yeah, definitely, mashallah. Because we all have certain blessings and gifts. There's one thing that I talk about, and that's don't run to the bank with your blessings. And what that means is like, don't go to cash it out straight away. Sometimes, let's say someone suddenly starts getting, because one of the other people, let's carry on from that hadith, is someone who restrained themselves. And you can see the emphasis in Islam on kind of restraining your ego, restraining your desires. That's your ethical imperative, how you deal with that. We don't identify with our desires. This is something Imam Tom Fachin, he mentions, like, we don't identify with our desires. Desires are part of a test, and our ethical kind of imperative is how we navigate and use that. And it works both ways. It's not just about base desires in terms of like attraction to the opposite gender or whatever else. It's about how you deal with your blessings. And like you mentioned there, because someone's been given eloquence, someone's been given a bit of charisma. How do you use it? You can become 48 laws of power Machiavellian, right? And, you know, because I see some people and I recognize it because I read the books and stuff because I'm into self-development, right? But it's like, that's your test. You can either manipulate people, try and be smart, you know, I'm going to control the frame and all that kind of nonsense. Or you can use it to do da'wah or like bring people closer to Islam. And also on that is we've been given an innate personality, and people have been given different blessings, different starting points. Some people have like a higher level of whatever, right? Whatever blessing there is. And it's our responsibility to try and mold that towards the ideal, which is based on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So like, if you're an extrovert, if you're someone who's like that type A personality, it's not, oh, this is me and this is, that's it. Your whole journey of Tazkiyatun Nafs is developing yourself. And likewise, if you're an introvert in a way that's perhaps preventing you from stepping up and taking leadership or like fulfilling your roles as like a provider or as a employer or whatever, it's your responsibility to try and work towards improving on that. So it's not like you've been given set of blessings. That's your test, and your reward is from Allah. He will assess your effort. So I think, yeah, what you mentioned before is kind of really got me thinking on that point. So unless you've got anything further to add on that, I'll move on to the question about, you can combine them actually. So I was going to ask you about iftar, because we talked about suhoor, maintaining your energy throughout the day, having energy boosts and whatnot. Some optimized practices for iftar and energy towards Taraweeh, and also perhaps sleep as well. I know I've left it late,
Yes,
but
okay. No, that's great. No, it's perfect. And we'll dive into that. So the two things I want to touch on is just one more point about the extrovert versus introvert thing. So like being an extrovert is a blessing in that it's easier for you to interact with people and you're going to be better with people. But it's the double edge of that sword is the fact that maybe you're going to struggle to focus on your own. The advantage to being an introvert is that you can get better into focus deep work on your own, but you might struggle more so with social interaction and, you know, people skills and all that stuff. But you can always leverage those strengths to your advantage and find what you enjoy, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, what's going to add value to others, and then focus and double down on that while managing your weaknesses too. Or delegating if you're a business owner, but still be proficient in different things. Now, as far as what was the other thing you had mentioned? Well, I'll talk about iftar in a sec, but there was one other thing you mentioned. It was before we talked about introvert versus extrovert, it was some deep Islamic topic. What was it again?
Was it about improving your personality? So like, or is that under the, as in like you?
It might have.
Don't.
It might have been before
blessings.
That. Inshallah,
don't cash in your blessings.
Don't cash it. No, it was something else. I mean, those are all good points too. Inshallah, it'll come back to me if it's meant to be. This is an example of qadr where you know, we were talking about qadr before. So sometimes you gotta look back. And, you know, there's the hadith. One of my favorite hadiths as a fitness coach is the strong believer is more beloved to Allah than the weak believer. But the second part to that hadith is when something comes to pass that you see as a calamity or something bad that happened, don't say if only. Like, if only I remember what I was going to say, but rather say, hey, this is the qadr of Allah. Maybe it was meant to be this way, right? Or, I mean, of course it was meant to be this way. So anyways, so let's dive into iftar. Maybe that was required for me to have time to talk about iftar. So let's dive into it, inshallah. So for iftar, you know, I'm a big advocate for getting your carbs in at iftar if you have control over what you eat. So it depends. Like if you're at home, you know, make some lean meat. So some chicken breast, some tuna, either mahi or ahi tuna, you can cook it or you can do it raw. Actually, if you have sushi grade, or you could sear it with leave the inside raw. I'm actually, inshallah, have a video on that pretty soon on how to do that with like sushi grade tuna, which is really delicious. And you can do that with some rice. You can do that with some potato. For the rices, I'd advocate either basmati or brown rice, but don't do jasmine rice because it has a higher glycemic index, so it kind of spikes your blood sugar a little too fast. So these are all things like doing some sort of lean meat with some sort of complex carb source, like rice, potato, sweet potato. If you don't have issues with gluten, you could do bread potentially, but again, I would be careful with that because most people are going to get bloated from bread, right? And I would keep the fats very, very low because when you're eating higher carbs, you have to go lower in the fats, and vice versa. When you're eating higher fats, you got to go lower in the carbs so you don't overdo the calories. Because remember, you always got to get protein with every meal. That's really important for optimization. Now, so that's for the actual meal that we eat after we break our fast. But for actually breaking the fast, I recommend breaking it with one date and a protein shake. So when you break it with a date and a protein shake, your body's been starved of protein all day long. So most people prefer whey protein, seem to get better results. But some people, they get digestion issues. So you could try plant-based protein, like Garden of Life is a good brand that some of my clients really like, the ones who get issues with whey. There's another one, I can't remember the name. So, some people, especially in your 40s, you can get like a really sensitive stomach, but even some people 20s and 30s get it, right? And definitely like, 50s and beyond. Then you have people in their 60s who can just, somehow their stomachs are made of iron. SubhanAllah, Allah has created us all different. But again, assess for yourself. Everybody's unique. And then from there, then after you have that protein shake and date, pray maghrib, right? Drink some water, and then you can eat your meal, and it's going to help you control your appetite. And then again, if you're eating at home, you can follow the parameters I just outlined. Have it with a fiber source like spinach, carrots, green beans, okra, something like that. But also try to cook that without oil as well. And that's to optimize like suhoor at home, iftar at home. Now, what about if you're at a family gathering? You're probably not going to have chicken breast that's cooked lean. You're probably going to have chicken breast that's cooked in a ton of oil, right? If there's even chicken breast, or maybe it's chicken thighs or something with a lot of fat, or maybe it's like, goat is pretty lean, but how are they cooking the goat? Because goat by itself is fine, but goat cooked in an oily curry and then they pour extra like ghee inside of it, that's probably not going to be the ideal scenario, right? So you got to kind of assess what's in front of you. And the strategy I find works best is find the leanest meat you can, or if it's in like a curry, obviously it's still going to taste good because you took it out of the curry. Just don't take a whole lot of the curry broth because it's probably got a lot of oil or ghee in it, right? Which again, grass-fed ghee is not intrinsically unhealthy, but the quantity is too many calories. And all of that ghee in your stomach is make you so bloated, so gassy. You're going to be like holding in your need to pass gas or break wind during Tarawih. You won't be able to focus, and you'll be bloated and tired. You might not even make it to Tarawih because you're so tired and bloated, right? So limit that quantity. And also you don't want to gain fat. And it's very easy for your body to store fat as fat. So if you're eating so many excess calories and fat, we got to be careful with that, especially if we're having carbs with it. So take the meat portions out of a curry, or if you can find some lean meats, so like let's say there's some chicken legs, like some tandoori chicken. Yeah, maybe it's marinated in full fat Greek yogurt or full fat yogurt, as opposed to being marinated in 0% Greek yogurt, which is my tandoori chicken recipe in the recipe book, right? So obviously, if you can bring your own tandoori chicken to the thing, great, because then you can marinate it in the healthy thing, and nobody will be able to tell the difference in taste, but you'll know it's healthy, right? But if they have tandoori chicken there, it's probably marinated in fatty yogurt, but that's fine. You can take some. Just understand that with that protein source, which is going to satiate you, be healthy for you, all that stuff, you are getting a little bit of fat, probably a large dose of fat. So because we're eating more fat, limit the carbs when you go to different iftars, right? You can have a little bit, but be very careful. And if you really want to lose weight during Ramadan, then don't eat carbs at iftar, right? If you're going out somewhere versus if you're eating at home, then yes, do carbs that keep the fats low. But again, if you go eat out somewhere, you probably don't have control over the fats. And this is my strategy when I have clients go out to eat, like with friends or whatever, or to a restaurant as well. Get the high protein options, limit the carbs, because even the protein options are cooked in oil. Even the veggies are cooked in a lot of oil, so the fats are higher. So that can be hard for some people. But so again, if you're like somebody who's very addicted to carbs, we can, make some changes there too. Like that's fine. And we all want to be able to eat rice. And that's why, if you can, try to eat more of your iftars at home. But of course, part of Ramadan is connecting with others and everything. I mean, that's a huge part, connecting with other Muslims, being around family. So of course, if you go to somebody's house, and here's one area where we can use frame control for good. Okay. Because we're talking about controlling the frame earlier. So here's the thing. There's a couple different frames at play when you go to an iftar. There's your frame, which is, hey, I'm trying to be on point with my fitness, be healthy, be on my personal development, be the best Muslim I can be, go to Tarawih, feel energetic, not be gassy. Then there's the grandma frame, which is, you must eat the food I made or I'll be offended. And you got to eat. And, being fat is healthy. And like whatever stories your grandmas and, family members have, or your auntie who's going to get mad or be like, you're not fat enough to get married yet. You need to add more fat to you or something like that. Meanwhile, you're like, no, I got to lose fat. What are you talking about? Time's a different grandma. I'm just kidding. But anyway, not that we would ever talk to our grandma like that. I'm just making a joke. But But then there's a frame of Islam, and this is a frame that we all respect, as we should, right? Which is, hey, you know what? Do some da'wah. So if you have eaten an amount of food that you feel comfortable with, you know that you feel good, you follow the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 hadith, you're keeping it healthy, you drank some water before you ate, filled up 1/3 of your stomach with that water, then you eat and you fill up 1/3 with food, and you save 1/3 room to save room for your breath so you can properly focus during tarawih, go deeper in the ibadah, do more, have more stamina, not be gassy. And then your grandma tries to pressure you to eat more, your auntie pressures you to eat more. Be very kind. Because, of course, in Islam, we're obligated to be kind and respectful to our family, but do some da'wah and say, you know what, Nanima, if you're Pakistani, you say Nanima, or, if you're Arab, maybe you say Jidda, right? You know what, Grandma, I actually am practicing the sunnah of our Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because I'm planning on going to Tarawih after this, and I want to make sure I can focus. And our Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us, say 1/3 of your stomach for food, 1/3 of your stomach for water, 1/3 to save room for your breath. And there's also a hadith that, I'm going to have to find the direct quote, but it's like, he who cannot resist the temptations of his stomach, dims the light of faith in his heart. You'll have, like, Google search that, dims the light of faith in your heart, food hadith, right? But this is an important one. So if you share these two hadiths and you say, so the food was super delicious, I'd love to take some home as a leftover, right? But right now I don't want to overstuff myself, because then I might not make it to Tarawih, and I'm going to not be able to focus, and I want to make sure I can stay for Qiyam, whatever it is. And, when you approach it in that kind, respectful manner, and you show them that your reason is Islam, which transcends culture and transcends the, pressures or desires of the family, sometimes they're going to respect that. Sometimes they won't, but usually they will, because nobody's going to say, no, our culture is more important than the hadith, than Islam. Nobody's going to say that. So people respect that frame. And you know what? Maybe it's going to inspire them to be healthy too, and maybe not, because Allah guides who He wills, right? Like, but in Surah Al-Asr, Allah tells us to remind each other and urge each other towards, good deeds and truth and perseverance, right? When Allah tells us, again in Surah Al-Asr. So again, share the truth with people, but Allah guides who He wills, and just, ultimately try your best. And, maybe you have a cheat meal once a week. That's fine. I always advocate for that. I'm actually a fan of having a cheat meal once a week. It's actually good for your metabolism. I got other videos on that. But, there's a lot more I could say on this. We only got like 3 minutes. So that's kind of the iftar strategy in a nutshell. Is that's what you do when you eat at home. That's what you do when you eat with family. Focus on protein options, control the carbs, because you can understand the protein options are cooking a lot of oil, and use the hadith to give da'wah to your family without offending them, so that they understand that, no, it's not that I mind the food. It tastes so good. In fact, it tastes so good that I want to eat more. But my greatest priority this Ramadan is to become closer with Allah. And so I'm following this hadith that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recommended to help us to go deeper in ibadah and have more, more stamina and, more perseverance with our prayers, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. So we'll bring it to a close, inshallah. There's loads more that I could speak to you.
Sorry.
Yes.
One more thing I forgot to say. After Tarawih, everybody has sweets cravings. So don't go for the kanafa. Don't go for the gulab jamun. Stock up on Chobani Zero Greek yogurt. They got 60 calories each, 11 grams of protein. They're sweet. They're delicious. They just came out with a new flavor called milk and cookies, which is absolutely delicious. So if you have sweets cravings after Tarawih, you can eat like 2 or 3 of those, and it's still under 200 calories. So I just want to add that last part of the iftar nutrition.
I don't know if they have that here. So is it low-fat Greek yogurt, the recommendation, essentially?
It's zero fat, zero sugar Greek yogurt. It's really good.
Okay, Jazakallah khair for that. There's so many different topics that we could speak about, and time. Just wanted to end with this, because I know we've only got 2 minutes. The importance of, if they're close family, they know you a lot. So by now, you should have moved in the direction where they kind of know what you're doing and respect it. If they're more distant family, or you're going just for Ramadan, then you can use those. You can use that da'wah method, I guess. But part of Islam is also being the willingness to embrace a bit of discomfort. But I can understand it's a very kind of it's a difficult situation to navigate sometimes. And I think you can mitigate it by just taking a little bit sometimes, like even if it's one bite, that gets over that, oh, you've not had any. Just take like a little bite, and that kind of gets over that. But I wanted to end with what should people do, because information's out there, right? ChatGPT, I can type in, how should I prepare for Ramadan? And it'll give me a list, right? But accountability is lacking. That's the most important thing. Everyone's got loads of information last 5 years. Everyone's like an internet kid. What should people do? I recommend people take coaching if they want to transform themselves, right? Because you get the accountability, you get the full-on system. This is just like, you could only touch on topic, right? So where should people go in terms of if they want to work with you, and also what resources have you got for them in terms of like links and whatnot?
Yeah, so definitely recommend hiring a coach. I have coaches for everything. I've had many mentors. I've invested, over 6 figures in coaching and multiple 6 figures in education overall. And alhamdulillah, I've had the luxury and opportunity to do that. And again, what I want to do is pass on those blessings to everybody here, which is why we do this content. It's a form of sadaqah jariyah. And again, jazakallah khair for this interview. I appreciate it. For different like free resources, or if you're interested in investing in yourself and hiring me and our team as a coach. So the free resources, you can send me a DM on Instagram with the word Suhoor if you want my Suhoor guide. Another one with the word Iftar for the Iftar guide. You can send me a DM with the word Ramadan. I'll send you my free entire Ramadan overview strategy, the cookbook, the recipe book. It's like 45 pages. It's amazing. A bunch of other stuff in addition to all like the different video bundles and instructional free videos. So I got a ton of free content. But of course, free content is information. But if you struggle with implementation and customization, then you would definitely benefit from having a coach. So if you want more details on my coaching program, DM me with the word coaching. If you're interested in optimizing your time management as well, that's something that we do. But it sounds like Brother Adil is actually specialized in that. So if that's a specific area for you, then absolutely talk to Brother Adil as well. And mashallah, it's been great connecting with you, bro. I'm excited to connect with you further in the future, my brother, because mashallah, you got a great head on your shoulders. You're an amazing coach, I can already tell. And it's always an honor to connect with fellow Muslim brothers. And it's been an honor doing this podcast. Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you for the kind words. And it's I think we followed each other on Instagram a while back, and I like to get guests on after I've seen them like upload content and stuff. So alhamdulillah, I was very happy that you agreed to come on and shared all this valuable advice. And we'll link everything in the description. Go to Br Mounir's Instagram. Jazakallah khairan, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa yakum wa jazakum wa alaikum assalam.